The November 9th, 2021 finance meeting of the Carlynton School District Board of Directors is called to order. Dr. Manson, you haven't done this in a while. Do you want to lead us in the pledge?
I sure would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Frank. Present. Director Hunchar.
Here.
Director Pushkar. Here. Director O'Brien. Here. Director Simpson. Here. Director Shine.
Here. I'll turn to Dr. Crater for our finance report for tonight.
Yes, Mr. Bilby has our financial report, which again will give us an update on financial status up to date. And then we also plan to talk about, as we mentioned at our last meeting, just the budget timeline moving forward and which direction we want to move towards. So, Mr. Bilby, you want to take it from there?
Good evening, everyone. All right. So as we do in most of these finance meetings, we do take a look at where we are currently in our finances, just so that we can make sure that we're looking at any trends to see if there's anything that's going out of whack or out of control, and we need to take a look at. So with the first one, we start out once again with our revenues, and right now the revenues still are trending very well. The local revenue, we're sitting at 79%. As far as the taxes, local taxes that we have, we're at 83% of our budget. So very good, strong, healthy collections. And one note about the taxes is that we did increase our tax collection rate this year. So that reflection even does show a higher collection than what we had in previous years. So we're looking good. You know, we were a little concerned about raising it, but right now it's trending very well for our budgeting. As far as the state revenues, we're starting to receive some of our, as you see, the state grants. We've received our property reimbursement from the state, the gambling money. We've received our Ready to Learn grant money, and a couple of our subsidies have started to flow. The federal revenues, as I stated in the last meeting, we don't start receiving those until we start doing our quarterly reports. Once we report our quarterly reports, then you'll start seeing the influx of money from the federal government. So as of right now, of the $30,875,000 that we projected in our budget, we're at $18,797,000, which is 61%. So that's where we are right now. It's trending very well. It's looking very good. So no concerns on that. Any questions?
Yes, Keith, when you said that we increased our collection rate this year, you mean in our budget?
In our budget.
Our assumption.
Yeah, our assumption, right. So right, when you look at our budget, right, in our assumption, we did increase our collection rate, which is now tying with what our actual collections are happening. It's, but we're still staying in track that we are going to hit that projection that we made of that 93%.
And to your point, I think last year we lowered it a little bit.
You're absolutely right.
Anticipating a problem because of COVID, and
Exactly.
it didn't materialize. We put it back up to where it historically.
Exactly right. So, and that just shows that we are rebounding as far as with the economy and everything is running good. So, yes, you're right.
Keith, one other quick question. The normal tax deadline is October 31st. Is that correct?
Tax deadline for the just for the actual
local property tax.
Yes. That's for the no penalty.
So
but it really is not, because some of us
You can go on to installment plans, right. So the normal collection rate, right, the normal collection is through the October 31st, but those that did agree to do the installment can go all the way up to the December 31st collection. Okay, next. As far as our expenditures, right now we are at 29% for the year. When I look through these, everything is hitting pretty much where we expect them to hit. The salaries are at 20%, the benefits at 23%. Those should be correlating together. when you look at, once again, the 300s, the 500s, and the 600s, which are, I mean, sorry, the 700s, which is our purchase professional and tech services, our other purchase services, and our property, those are higher because of the encumbrances. And basically, that's where we have our tuition for our special ed students. Our charter school students are also in the 500 other purchase service area. So those numbers are a little bit higher now just because we did encumber those expenditures so that we know where we are, that those are going to be costs that we will use throughout the year. And it's always good, like we explained with encumbrances, to know exactly where you are so that you don't have that unexpected expense at the end of the year. So the big thing that we notice on here is if you look at the 700 of properties, it's showing that we're 660% over our budget. If you look at our encumbrances under that section, the encumbrances show $250,250. Basically what that is, that's the start of us starting to spend our ESSER's money. So what that is we have a big purchase out for, I believe those are leafing boards, or it might be the computers, whatever it is. It's a big purchase that we're doing with our ESSER's money. And right now, we have it sitting in here, and as I promised, that once we really start spending the money, start receiving the money, I'll have another slide that I'll break it out of the general fund so that we can absolutely keep track of what are we spending our ESSER's money on. So right now, no big concerns with expenditures. Everything's flowing really good. There's no major accounts that are over budget at this time, so I think we're in good shape with that. Any questions on the expenditures?
One quick question. The special education number, if a student moves out of the district, that lower that
That's
number?
lower, yes.
So it's likely to happen, but it's not guaranteed to happen.
That's correct. Right.
Keith, is 500 public charter schools, or does it include all the charter schools?
The 500s are your cyber schools, your charter schools. The outplaced schools, those are in the 500s. The 300s are more of your residential hospitals, your OTPT services. A lot of our services through the AIU are in the 300s. So you might see, like the Pathfinder or the other schools are in our 322. Because we're purchasing that service through the AIU. Whereas the 500 is actually purchasing the services from the actual unit itself, the charter schools or the cyber schools.
Hey Keith, I think George asked if our Carlynton Cyber Academy is in that
Oh, our
500.
Carlynton Sky, yeah, our Carlynton Cyber is, I believe it's in the 500s.
Okay.
Actually, it is, I'm sorry, it is, because we are paying through the Seneca Valley School District, yes. Yes, I'm sorry, it's understood. Any other questions on expenditures? Okay. So with the budget timeline, we're going to go through this. I have two sheets for you. There's the, actually you gave me two of the same one, but that's okay. There's the budget resolution tab, and then there's the proposed budget. I think it's what I named it. Preliminary budget tab. So every year we have to make that decision of which path are we going to take. When you look at the path, you have the one path, which is the preliminary budget path, which what that path basically does is it requires us to build a preliminary budget. It requires the board to approve this budget. Makes us have to put it out for public view. We have to advertise. So it's actually going through the whole process of getting a preliminary budget approved. And really the sole purpose for doing this path here will be to file for your exceptions. You know, if you want your referendum exceptions, which currently there are 2 of them that we qualify for, which is our special ed increases in our retirement. Recently, with the retirement rate increase slowing down and the special ed costs have leveled out, they haven't really increased too much in the past couple of years. We really have not been able to really generate any additional revenue, or actually last year we didn't even qualify for it. So that's what this preliminary budget path basically is for. So you have to go through the process, and I'll go through it in more detail in a little bit next. And then we have the budget resolution path, which is basically what we're going to ask the board to do would be to say we are willing to pass a resolution saying that we will not raise our taxes above the stated index that the PD has set for us, which right now our index is 4.2%. So that's basically what they're saying with this path, is that we don't have to go through the preliminary budget process. We don't have to do all the additional board approvals, board meetings, and board advertisings of this budget. So these are really the 2 paths that we have to plan on every year. So that's why I've given you both plans for you to take a look at. Look through them. We'll give you, at the end of this, I'll give you a recommendation of where we think we should go with it. But I really want you to take a look at it. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I want you to see really all the steps that we have to go through, all of the process for the building of the budget. So when I look at the next slide, the key dates, when you're working on your preliminary budget path, if we choose to go with this path, we need to really start working on our preliminary budget right now. So what we would really have to do, and what we try to do when we do build a preliminary budget, is we want to try to get it as accurate as we can. So it does involve us having to go through and get the administrators involved a little bit quicker, get everyone involved, just to try to get a preliminary budget out there. The hard thing with that is the preliminary budget is absolutely 100% assumptions. There's no data that's coming. When you have, as you see in January, we have a discussion of the preliminary budget. January 18th, we authorize the posting and advertising. So by the middle of January, we really have to have a budget ready to go for your approval. And at that time, the state budget hasn't even been discussed. And there's just a lot of things that, there's a lot of unknowns with that. And then in February, we have the approval of the preliminary budget. And then March and April, that's when we really have our time to start the school board budget discussions on the final budget. So what it's basically doing is we're spending our focus right now is working on the preliminary budget. In the background, we are starting to build our final budget, but we really can't focus on that final budget until, one, if we are going to file for the referendum exceptions. We won't know if we got approved for that until early March. Then that's how we would then say, okay, well, this is the rate that we have to shoot for as far as our revenues. So that's where we are with that. With the preliminary budget, we're also looking at the March and April budget discussions. And April 19th, we're looking at the proposed final budget approval, and then the May 17th final budget approval. So I believe we were all in agreement last month that we would attempt to do this fast track, and it's very accomplished. Doable. I'd say we're going to be able to do it. And one thing that this allows us to do is that May 17th, if for some reason we find something that is causing us issues, that we're having trouble getting this done, we still have a month. Really, we actually have half a month to be able to get that proposed final done to move it to June. So that's the preliminary budget path. The budget resolution path is much easier. December 7th, we'll adopt the resolution not to raise the taxes above the index of the 4.7. At the same time, we'll be working on our proposed final budget, and working with administrators. And you'll see on these sheets where we have meetings scheduled with all of our administrators, and we have set deadlines that we have to meet. Where I need to get information from them, I'll need to get information to the superintendent, and just to be able to keep us on track. That's really the main goal of this. This is more of a informational for you to see with the stars of what are you going to do as a board, what kind of actions you have to do. But this is more for us and the administrators so that we stay on track, that we don't drop the ball and miss something, an important date, or not be able to meet our deadlines. So February, March, and April, we're going to be able to have time to be able to do the school board budget discussions. So what that basically, instead of having to worry about February of doing the preliminary budget, we can do that. And then again, April and May, the proposed final and the final budget. So both paths are, it really is. It's not too difficult to do either path. It's just that's where we're going to say which way do you want to go, and we'll prepare either way. So
Chief, let's pause you there. For the board, I think we've taken both paths in the past, depending on what was going on that year, what we thought we needed to do. Sounds like the recommendation, and I'm curious what your position is, the recommendation is that we don't see an opportunity to do exceptions this year. So there's no reason to go down the preliminary budget path, right? So you're recommending the
yeah,
budget
we're
resolution.
going to recommend, and I'll show you some extra things too.
But just to pause there, anybody disagree or choose what?
No, I agree. I think when you look at the schedule, the difference between the two is Keith's team has to go through two budget cycles.
Right.
There's no difference for us.
Right.
If we don't think we're going to need the referendum, or if we're not going to need the exceptions, then why do it and let him just do one budget cycle?
I agree.
That's the difference between the two. Is there's no difference for us.
Right. Yeah. We good with that? Okay. So on the 7th, we'll vote.
Okay,
to
good.
do.
And that's definitely what we were going to recommend. And honestly, it does give us more time to really focus on that final budget. And it gives me more of an opportunity, because I know there's been a lot of asks from several board members that let's go through the budget in a little bit more detail. So we'll be able to take topics and say, okay, let's look at this, and use our finance committee meetings to really dig into the budget. Take some of those areas that were gray and make it a lot clearer. So, I'm willing to do that for you guys, and I think that this is really going to give me and Dr. Kreider an opportunity to really hone down the budget. And then actually, this will be one of the first times in a while that we'll actually be sitting down with the administrators and really having them put a part into their budgets. So. That's really one of the goals that I had coming here, is that I wanted this budget to be something that everyone buys into and actually works at trying to continue to make it work for the district. So I totally agree that that's probably the best path at this time. So just to see, these are just some of the key budget factors that we are facing with this budget. These numbers absolutely are assumptions. These numbers that I got are from our projection model that I presented to you back in June. So if you take our index of 4.2%, I increased our collection rate to 93.5, so 0.5%, and we also increased our assessed value. So basically what 4.2% will give us is $760,000 additional revenue if we absolutely chose found a need that we had to raise taxes up to that index amount. So that we know by doing this referendum, we still have the ability to raise taxes. It just means we just can't do the exception. So $760,000 is what that equates to. There is going to be a 5% projected increase in salaries. The PSERS rate is slowing down a little bit, but still has not hit that plateau. It's increasing from 34.95 to 35.62, which to our district, that's approximately a $380,000 increase, yes, we do get reimbursed on the other side, so the revenues will go up also, but I just wanted to, let everyone know that, we are still increasing our features costs. And the fund balance utilization, it's right now it's using $550,000 of our fund balance, but, very, very preliminary. I mean, we really haven't even looked at numbers strictly from our projections, so absolutely that number, what that does is it gives us a number where to start and then how to start chopping it down so that we can balance the budget. So those are really the big key factors that we have to look at and to factor in when we start building our budget. And
Steve, a quick question. The 5% increase in salaries, is that not because we're giving an across-the-board 5% raise, but
It's all based on the
overall
contracts.
mix, people going through the step, the jump step?
yeah, absolutely. Right, that's exactly what that is. It's everybody's, all salaries, the admin on down to the custodians
And is the Peasers 380 grand, is that a net amount or a gross amount?
No, that's a gross amount of what the cost would be based on the increase of the salaries.
So it'll cost us 190 roughly.
Approximately, right, by the time we get our revenue increase, right. And that's exactly it. We haven't even really looked at the increases in revenues that we possibly can have with Esther. So that's just, it's always nice to have some of those key factors to know where do we have to, some of the fixed things that we know, the salaries of people, that's automatically going to be built in that budget. So then that's when you start piecing it together, all the rest of the parts to get it to balance. So that's what I have right now. We can, any questions or anything? Want to discuss anything else?
Any board member? Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, I think resolution process just gives us time to focus in on the actual budget. I don't see a need to go above the 4.2% index this year. So it's definitely not going to be our recommendation that we'll put that on it goes on the board agenda then for December, correct?
December 7th, we can put it on the board agenda to pass it. It doesn't have to be passed until the end of January, I believe it is, but might as well we can get it done, get it out of the way, and we can start really focusing on getting that final budget started.
Sounds good.
That's everything I have tonight.
No other reports?
Any other board member have questions or comments for financial stuff? No? Should we adjourn? So we make a formal motion?
A few more songs over there.
Yeah.
Second.
Move to second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? We are adjourned. Thank you.